I'm Karin Goodburn, and I'm a chilled food scientist. My background is biochemistry and genetic engineering degree, followed by a master's in food science. And I'm Director General of the Chilled Food Association, which represents the manufacturers of all the chilled prepared foods you see in the shops, which is normally sold under a retailer's label, by which we mean the shop selling, like Marks and Spencer, Sainsbury's, Tesco, as the Waitrose and so on. And the companies that make the foods you don't really know about, so they're quite invisible, but they're large companies with a lot of opportunity and billions of pounds worth of business and a lot of jobs on offer. So how did I get into what I do, which is being the liaison person and running things between the government, the industry, the media and scientists? Well, I was doing my finals and biochemistry, and I thought, how on earth did those beans get in that can? So what's going on there then? So I thought I'll have a look at food science as a master's, a sort of conversion course there. And my mother was saying to me, people need to eat, always need to eat. So there's always going to be good careers and roles in food. And she's absolutely right. And what I do, like I say, I'm a liaison between various parts of the world, like government and industry and so on. And I deal with sustainability, safety at work, science, standards and law. So formulate legislation and work with the government on legislation, and guidance and skills development. So I'm talking to you today. I work not only in the UK, but Europe, Australia, Canada, United States, and even with the United Nations on various things, and the Global Food Safety Initiative, for example. So my role is really quite international. And I really would recommend this industry as a great career. Which brings you on to Matty, who's joining us from Samworth Brothers. So Matty, over to you.
Hi everyone. Yes, so as Karin said, my name's Matty, and I work for one of the corporations that Karin was just mentioning. So my business is called Samworth Brothers, and we're a group of food manufacturers. We've got about 15 factories just in the UK we're based. But the majority of the business that we do is making products for supermarkets that have supermarkets' names on. So almost every UK supermarket we will make some sort of product for. The main types of food that we produce are all chilled foods. We do stuff like ready meals, food to go, so stuff like wraps, pasta pots, sandwiches. And I also, well, the site that I work at the moment, do cooked meats. So I work in a cooked meats ham factory. We also make pate and then raw, ready to cook sausages for a number of UK supermarkets. And I'm specifically on a degree apprenticeship scheme with Samworth Brothers. So that basically means that I'm doing my degree at the same time as working full time. So it's in conjunction with Sheffield Hallam University. And one of the best things about it is that it's for free. So I don't pay any tuition fees for my degree. It's covered by a government levy that Samworth pay into. So I'm earning a salary as well as not having to pay any tuition fees whilst doing an undergraduate degree. And I suppose what would I be doing on a daily basis is very dependent on the role that I'm in. So my scheme's split into 3 one-year-long placements. I'm in my 3rd year at the moment. Well, each role that I've been in has been very different, but even within those roles themselves, I find myself doing different things on different days. So one day I could be on the factory floor trialling a new product to be launched into supermarket shelves as a process development role. Another day I might be doing an investigation in the office into an incident that's occurred, and it means that we have products on hold that we need to get out of the door as soon as possible because of the short shelf life that chilled foods tend to have. And another day, again, I could be back on the shop floor looking at our processes and making sure that I'm trying to make improvements to our processes, either from a financial saving perspective or a food safety perspective as well. So that's a bit of an insight into what I do, and I'll talk a bit more about the apprenticeship in a bit and hand back over to Karin for now.
Hi, we're going to talk in some detail about the roles in chilled food production. These are science, technology, engineering and maths roles. So once you're a scientist or an engineer, you can swap around various roles around the whole of the food industry, because once you've been in the chilled food sector in production here in this country, you can do jobs anywhere in the world. So Matty is going to talk us through some of the careers here on the STEM side, and how he actually started to get into this, and what he's doing, what the advantages are, and where he hopes to go as well, perhaps. Over to Matty.
Yeah, so I'll start off by just talking through the roles that we've got on the slideshow here. And as Karin said, these are all roles involving food science and could very easily chop and change throughout your career, and I know that I definitely want to throughout my career to explore a few different types of roles. So, you know, by no means seconded to just one stream of employment within the food science sector. So in the top left, we've got creative new product development. So this is the team that work on not only just on site as a manufacturer, but they could also work at a retailer head office. And they are responsible for coming up with new ideas of new products to sell. So you might think of products like the Greggs vegan sausage roll, for example. That will have been developed by a new product development team who will have probably explored a number of different types of alternative vegan meats to put into this sausage roll, and sort of agreed on one that they're happy with the most, and then got that agreed to be released onto public sale. That's from a retail perspective. Then from a site perspective, the retailer will tell us what they want. They'll give us a brief of a category of product that they want us to develop. So it might be something like, if I'm working for a sandwich factory, they want us to develop a Middle Eastern range of sandwiches and wraps. Dependent on what sort of trends are on the market that they've identified and think will do well in product format, and then we'll go away and develop a number of concepts around that and sell them back to the retailer, who will pick a number of them that they want to go ahead with and launch onto public sale. From there, there's also microbiologists, food scientists and technologists. So these are the people that look after the safety of our products. So for the company that I work for, we do an incredible amount of microbiological testing on our products to make sure that there are no nasties in there in terms of microorganisms that could cause harm to a consumer. But we have to rely on a laboratory to do that testing for us. So we contract all of our testing out to laboratories across the UK, both from a microbial perspective and a nutritional perspective as well. And they will take our samples in and test them for us. So people that work in those laboratories and interpret the methodology that they use are food scientists as well, microbiologists specifically. But then we also have food scientists working on site here. So we have people who are responsible for food safety and the processes that we use on site, the procedures that we use in our factory to ensure that our products are never compromised in terms of safety, and mitigate the risks that we do work with on a daily basis in the food industry. And then the team that are responsible for making sure that those practices are being stuck to is the quality assurance team. So they're looking at the safety of the products on the shop floor, inspecting lines to make sure that they're working to all of their good manufacturing practice procedures that they need to be working to. For example, it could be simple things like wearing a hairnet properly in the factory, washing your hands regularly, changing clothes and protective equipment when we change over on a product that's got a different allergen in it. And there are teams that enforce that and make sure that the factory are working to it, because it is so important. They'll also be responsible for sampling products and sending stuff off to the laboratories that the microbiologists will then go and test. And then moving away from the teams that actually work with the production process, you've got compliance auditors and technologists. So these people have got really exciting jobs and are responsible for going and inspecting suppliers to their companies and making sure that they're working to the standards that we expect them to from food safety and quality perspective, and that the risks that we could potentially be trusting them to mitigate, so stuff like making sure that stuff comes into us in a safe nature, are mitigated in the correct way. So they'll probably go for a day or two, and this isn't just necessarily suppliers in the UK, they travel all across the world to suppliers, and we'll go for a day or two and spend time on the factory floor, and looking at the systems and processes that the company have worked to, and giving recommendations to anything that perhaps compromises what we asked them to not. So as a job that goes out and sees the world, that is amazing, and you spend a lot of time out of your factory looking at suppliers in that role. But again, still applying food safety and science principles to every decision that you make and everything that you encounter within that role. You'll also get people that work in investigative laboratories and use technical and forensic skills to troubleshoot and resolve challenges. So that's not just in laboratories, but it could be on site a food manufacturer as well. So we have incidents that occur. No factory is perfect. The scale of products that we make, it's impossible to make everything absolutely perfectly. So they will go and investigate where there's an issue, an incident has occurred, or a process has been deviated away from, and they'll look at the root cause of why that's happened. They could potentially also use science to do that. So they could potentially, I don't know, if we found a foreign body of some sort in one of our products, we could send that to a laboratory to analyse and identify where that foreign body has come from. And that would tell us a lot around a failed control to keep that foreign body out of our products. Then we've got the sales and marketing teams. So they're the teams that will take a product that's been developed by a new product development team and sell it to the retailer and explore the market of the category of product that the factory's making, and make recommendations back to the product development teams and the retailers for new areas that they could explore and try and gain further sales from. And then as well as this, we've got innovative food technologists. So these are the people that look for, use science and apply science to look for solutions to issues that we might encounter on a daily basis in the industry. And not just on a daily basis, but wider scale issues as well. So issues around public health, they might do studies into and research into and try and come up with solutions that could then be practiced by manufacturers to always keep improving the safety and quality of our products and the overall public consumer health. And again, I just want to emphasise that you're not necessarily tied down to any one of those roles. I've worked in a number of them already, and I've only been working in the industry for 3 years. People obviously work here for 20, 30 years as a minimum most of the time. So you'll tend to see people at work that have gone through a few of them to work their way up. And these kind of people have come into the industry from a range of different career pathways. A lot of them have just done a standard undergraduate degree. That might be in food science, it could be in another science related degree, so that's biology, chemistry, biological sciences, and not even necessarily a scientific based degree as well. We do find that some people will come through a completely irrelevant degree and be able to work their way up from the bottom and gain qualifications through work to come into more technical roles. So that will be obviously a full-time degree, 3 years, potentially 4 years with a sandwich year in the middle of experience at a university. They'll do practical things at university. That might be working in laboratories, it could be working in product development kitchens to gain a bit of experience. I might have a year secondment working for a group such as my own to get a bit of industry experience. But I'm not one of those people, so I'm a technical degree apprentice. And I do a thing called a degree apprenticeship, which you may or may not have heard of. But this combines work and university together. So my degree is still only 3 years long, like a full-time student would be, but I work full-time across those 3 years. So my business and Sheffield Hallam University work together to provide me with an educational piece from university, and that's not that much. It's 3 days every sort of 2 months or so. I'll go and do a placement at Sheffield Hallam University, so I'm still getting that university experience both from a theoretical perspective, and there might be some experience-based things that my company can't provide me with. So for example, we don't have a laboratory on site, so I'll go and work in the Sheffield Hallam University laboratory instead. But one of the best things about this apprenticeship is that I don't have to pay for anything. So a standard university student might pay tuition fees of £9,000 a year. It's just to attend the university and have a maintenance loan on top of that as well for living costs. I get a salary from my business, and then my business pay into a government levy which funds the apprenticeship scheme. So I'm earning money and not having to pay any of it back, but still getting the same qualification as students that are working full time. And then at the end of the apprenticeship, I'm guaranteed a role with my group. And even if I didn't want to stay with the group, got better prospects than a full-time student with the experience that I've now got on my back compared to a full-time student. So the degree apprenticeships are designed for people that want to work their way up to the top. And there's a number of different roles that I could go into after finishing the apprenticeship, most of them which I've just gone over with you. And I think the further up the ladder you go in terms of manufacturers and the structure of management teams in manufacturers, the more wide-ranging they are. So you may have a head of technical that looks after not only the quality assurance team, but the services and investigatory team and the process development team, and potentially even the new product development team as well, depending on the structure of your business. So I want to make my way up into that role eventually, but need experience in a number of different fields to do that. So again, just emphasising that you can jump between different roles, and then once you work your way up, you might be managing a number of different departments on your site. So that's the university route, but then as well as that, you find a lot of people that have come in without a degree at all, and they're people that have started off working either on a production line as a production operative, which is a pretty low-skilled job. It doesn't require many stringent qualifications to get into, and have managed to work their way up and gain experience throughout their career to move into more senior roles and move into the kind of roles that I'm in now and people above me are in. So it doesn't necessarily, it's not always done through university, and people do find their ways in other aspects as well. But I just want to talk as well about how secure jobs are within the food industry. If anything, there's a shortage of food scientists out there, and the industry is expanding, so the number of job roles is constantly increasing. As Karin said before, people are going to need to eat forever. So the industry is not dying, it won't die. It may change drastically, it does change drastically, it's a very fast moving industry, but we are guaranteed jobs for a long time and prospects are massive. And you see that in university employment rates as well. So employment rates tend to sit at around 90% have found a job within 6 months of finishing their degree. So people don't struggle for work in the food industry, which again is why it's such an exciting industry to come into. So yeah, that sort of demonstrates a bit of how you can come into it. Speak a bit more personally about how I found my way into the industry. So I've always had quite a close relationship with food. Found myself cooking for my parents from the age of like 7 or 8. And as a child, I always wanted to be a chef. That was my dream and my aspiration, I suppose. And as soon as I was old enough, I got a job to work as a chef in a kitchen. And really enjoyed it. I did it for 2.5 years. It was a fantastic experience, and a lot of the skills that I gained from that experience I now use in a completely different job setting. I don't cook anything as part of my role anymore, and I don't create anything as part of my role in terms of actual products and dishes that I would serve to a customer. So I did it, and I sort of sat there and thought, actually, I don't know if this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I'd emphasise that by no means tied down to what your aspiration is, and you may well find that actually that aspiration isn't what you want to do, but the number of roles that you're aware of as you grow up is always increasing. So I was doing sixth form at the time that I decided that I didn't want to be a chef. And my sixth form food technology teacher, A-level 2 food technology teacher, had worked in the food manufacturing industry for a number of years and was able to advise me of a number of different roles, some of the roles that I've just taken you through, of looking at doing a career in food manufacturing rather than kitchen and catering. And from there, I applied for a full-time university degree at Sheffield Hallam University as well in food and nutrition, and found out about the degree apprenticeship through that application process. And from there, found out that my company, who I now work for, were recruiting apprentices, and managed to apply with them. And Sheffield Hallam University recommended me to them as I'd approached them beforehand. So that's another piece of advice that I'd give to you, is if you want to do an apprenticeship, speak to the education provider about that apprenticeship. They'll be able to tell you who's recruiting and potentially issue recommendations to them and say, look, this guy's very eager and obviously wants a role in your industry. Why don't you think about taking him on? So that's how I found myself in the way I am, and I'm so glad that I've managed to get onto an apprenticeship over a full-time degree. I'm sure they provide just as much experience, but in my opinion, and I think in the industry's opinion, you're better off with an apprenticeship than you are with a full-time degree. So yeah, I hope that covers off sort of a different routes that you can get into the industry with.
There's a lot more information on the childeducation.org website. It gives you real people's career pathways as placement students and new intake graduates. There are courses as well. You can find out a lot of fun experiments to do during the summer holidays and the rest of it, and what's really involved in food science, but in a fun, practical way. And salaries, well, Matty has alluded to, he's getting a salary and he's got his £9,000 plus what would be some sort of maintenance grant. That's all. Really, he's getting his salary on top of not having to do all of that, as well as getting his degree and 3 years straight off experience. So salaries are really good, and people can escalate very quickly into company cars, real responsibility in management roles and fast track management roles. What you mentioned, there's quite a bit of travel and a huge amount of opportunity in the UK with this really diverse industry with at least 15,000 different foods being made every day. And what's more, you can make a real difference and help feed the nation, which we can't really do without. So I urge you all to have a quick look at the chillededucation.org website, have a look around the career paths and job descriptions and case studies, and welcome to the industry. Hope you take it up.